Are you ready to increase your retention and revenue and convert website traffic to clients? Then you're ready for Maya. Maya is a marketing and client recruitment software. Maya creates better business relationships by pairing the right clients with the right beauty professionals. How do we do it? A matchmaker. Your brand will have its own unique matchmaking survey. By pairing people based on their skill set, budget, personality, and lifestyle preferences, Maya creates lasting relationships that keep both sides coming back for more. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. Pair the right clients with the right beauty pros the first time. Visit joinmaya.com to get started.
Thank you for joining me. This is Katie Whitledge with the Beyond the Technique podcast. Today, we're going to talk about how to put your salon up for sale. Ooh, I know that whether you are ready to pass the torch of salon ownership now or make sure you have your plan in place for 5, 10, 15 years from now, this is a must hear, must watch topic. Speaking of watching, you can always watch Beyond the Techniques podcast on our YouTube channel. So if you love to see the faces behind the names, go to our YouTube channel. We have that link in our show notes for you. All right. We are bringing back an industry friend of mine. We have Susan Vosh here. She has been in the industry for 28 years. She is a lifetime cosmetologist and interestingly used to be a salon owner. Having hired a broker for herself and finding that wasn't the best path, she sold her own salon. Didn't realize that that would be part of her trajectory for what she does today, which is called Salons for Sale. That is part of her Salon Spa Connection company. So she is the only niche salon industry broker. And guess what? She's done deals as far and wide as Dubai and as local as Canada and US. She is located in the US. She's here today to share her expertise. Without further ado, help me welcome Susan Bosch. Welcome to Beyond the Technique.
Thank you for having me, Katie. What an excellent intro. I really appreciate that.
My pleasure. You are really smart. I really enjoy connecting with you on LinkedIn and just watching what you're promoting there and on Facebook. You really are niche. I want to just start right there and hear about your story with selling your own salon and why did you move away from having a broker, which most people think, unless I have somebody on the team I'm doing this with, I got to find a broker and put my business up for sale, but that didn't really happen well for you. Tell us about your story in that.
Yeah, so I really decided fairly early on, I didn't have the personality type to be a salon owner long term, but I had a 5-year lease and I had a 5-year loan that I ended up paying off early. So I put the salon up for sale in year 4 and I hired a business broker. This was many years ago. Let's see, this would have been, gosh, 20 years ago or so. And so I didn't know any better. And truthfully, the internet wasn't as prolific as it is now. And so someone had said, well, just contact a business broker. So I did. And, they did evaluation and did get me some buyers, but all the buyers that they had gotten for me were kind of the investor types, no one actually knew anything about owning a salon. They weren't any hairstylists. I didn't have anybody on my team that would assume the business. And so, I think we had a year contract or so. And so after that year, I decided not to renew. I decided that, let me try to market this on my own. Let me make some phone calls. I was very open about it, which is kind of unusual. So all of my team members knew. They all liked working together, and I assured them that I would try to find a successor that would continue to grow them. So yeah, I was able to sell the salon on my own. A guy that owned a new salon down the street actually ended up buying my salon. And so I, at the time I didn't know that was such an excellent lesson. And I would take all that experience and that knowledge with me to what I do today. But yeah, that was the story. And I find that even today's world, the brokers, typically they'll find the investor types, they'll find people that think owning a salon is fun, and it can be a giant waste of time. And so I don't think much has changed from then until now as far as your traditional business broker.
Interesting. I've had industry friends actually try to reach out to brokers who won't even touch trying to sell a salon or spa. Why do you think that is?
Well, overall, brokers don't like the industry. They do like spas because generally they can charge more for spas. Um, I think that's problematic. We have sometimes hidden cash. Our owners don't necessarily keep the best books, kind of disorganized financials. And so of course, your traditional broker is looking to make money. They typically make 10% on the overall sales price of the business. And a lot of times they view salons as low value. And it also has a very, fairly low multiplier as far as how you value the business. So I think those things coupled together is a turnoff for typical brokers.
Well, you've made this, like I shared, just such a niche. Like, this is what you do, and
Mhm.
you're the only one who specializes just in the salon spa world. So, tell me how this has evolved for you to take this on as part of one of your salon spa connection, initiatives.
Yeah, so in 2019, we were kind of just getting up and rolling, and a salon owner in Kansas City is where I live, reached out to me on Messenger and said, I'm really having trouble selling my salon. Do you think you could help? And it had never occurred to me prior to that to assist in that way. And I said, well, sure. I mean, I can try to market it for you. Give me some details. So I created a page on my website, got some details. This was a private sale. She didn't want anybody to know. So I just made some photos in Canva and started promoting the salon for sale. And I mean, it sold really quick. I thought, well, that's interesting. And I still didn't think much of it because I was focused on other things. And then another owner came, and then another owner came, and another owner came. And so it was like, well, gosh, I guess and truthfully, I did it for free at first because I didn't even know what to charge. I thought I'm just going to market it. I, didn't analyze the financials or anything like that. So it really just grew organically. And I couldn't believe the demand for this service. And so I've had to personally adapt over time and really dig into financials and learn what it means to be a broker, not just put up listings.
When you first started out, I'd imagine the owner says, I really want to get this for it. I want to get this amount of money for my business. And did you kind of go with that? And if so, has that changed now?
Yes, for sure. Whatever they said at first, I was like, that's fine. That's what we'll put up. Because I didn't know how to necessarily value a business myself. I thought, well, they have a pretty good idea of what it's worth. They have a pretty good idea of what they'd like to get for it. And so that stopped a couple years ago. I just started saying, if you want, because they wanted advice. It went from somebody requesting for me to advertise and promote to let me work with you on selling. And so I educated myself, got some mentors, and learned how to analyze businesses in order to be sold and what the true value is, how to do a correct valuation.
Okay, well, let's pretend that a salon owner comes to you and says, "Hey, I want your help selling my salon." Where do you begin, and what do you want them to have prepared when you start to work with them?
So the first thing that we look at is obviously, what they're doing online. Not that that necessarily translates to value, but it gives us a good picture of what the business is all about, what it looks like. And we need 3 years P&Ls, 3 years tax returns, and we also need the lease. We look at the lease as well, just to see if it's going to be a lease transfer, if there's going to be any barriers to someone taking over the lease. So we analyze the P&Ls, we analyze the tax returns, ask about inventory, ask about furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and are able to come up with a valuation fairly fast, in under a week,
Oh,
generally.
wow. I was going to ask, what does fast mean? Because that's relative. But yeah, under a week is fast.
Yeah. That's when they have it together, right? So if they don't have it together, and I've seen a lot of finances that are very confusing, and honestly just a little bit messy. So that takes a little bit more time because we're needing to decode what it is that's going on in the business. But the owners that have it all together, that have their financials organized, it goes fairly fast.
I've heard in the past that when you go to sell your salon, to expect it to take quite some time. That if you are hoping for this to be a quick sale and can, transition, don't expect that. What does that typically look like when people work with you?
Yeah, so we tell all of our sellers expect 6 months to a year. And it's not that it takes us that long to find buyers. We actually find buyers fairly fast, but most of our buyers are first time buyers. Therefore, we're educating the buyers and we are assisting the buyers on how to get financing. what that means, what they need in order to get a loan. And so that's really what takes a long time, I think, is the buyer side of it. And so, we do get owners coming in hot and like, hey, I want to sell right now. I've got a month left. And it's like, there's not much we can do to help you. Sure, we can take this on and we can market for you, but I can almost guarantee you that it's not going to sell in a month. It's just not. We did sell one business in a day, but that's just because we hit the right person. They had the money. So, but yeah, typically it takes 6 months to a year. The longest one took 18 months. That was a little bit more challenging. It was a specialty business. So yeah, generally speaking, 6 months to a year.
Wow. People are listening and like, I better start to prepare or
Yes.
just know that that timeline is up. When somebody said I have a month left, I'm assuming that meant they have a month left on their lease.
Yes.
So what's the advice at that point? Hey, reach out to your landlord and ask to go month to month.
Yeah, get an extension, absolutely, because you want to secure that space. That's a big problem when that space is not secured. Because if you get a buyer, the space is not secured. The buyer knows that you don't have much of a lease left. What they can do is they can go behind your back and they can go to the landlord and say, "Hey, don't renew their lease. I'll go ahead and sign it."
What is the average sale price of an average salon that you're noticing in today's market?
About 275. Of course, it really ranges. If it's a commission salon, typically you're going to yield a higher sales price because you can include people in the sale. You can include sales. With a booth rental salon, you're just looking at, what you're getting from rental income. Or, sometimes our booth rental salon owners are looking to retire, so they're leaving behind clientele. And so that's sort of an estimate on, an assumption on, let's say 50% of the clientele decides to stay with, a new owner. So it really differs wildly from, commission to employee based, or I'm sorry, employee based to booth rental. But yeah, generally around 275. But I mean, we've sold salons that are in the millions, and we've sold salons that are under $20,000. So we really work with a wide variety of sellers.
So interesting. When you are doing the valuation, you have the owner who thinks it's worth this. Where does that usually fall? Is it usually like, hey, where we land is usually 10% under what you're actually wanting? Or, and how do they emotionally react to that? Because this is a highly, highly emotional uh, sell and transition.
And there is a lot of people that come in and say, this is how much I want for the business. Well, if they want us to represent them, they're going to have to go with our recommendation. We don't say this is how much you should list your business for. We're going to say the value of your business falls in this range. This is what we are comfortable listing the business for. And if they want to shoot really high, we're going to not represent them as broker. We're going to put them into the other options if they want to still work with us. Because honestly, it's a massive waste of time. The buyers want to see financial proof that the business is worth that.
Yep.
So if they're not willing to, align with those numbers, then there's not much we can do for them outside of marketing.
Yeah, you just said another option. So tell me, when somebody works with you, it sounds like there's more than one kind of path they can take to selling their business.
For sure. And I would say that out of our three options, we have a pretty equal amount of our current sales for each of the options. So the first option is really basic. It's like a pay to list type of option where you can choose, basic listing, or you can choose for us to help market the salon. And from there, kind of the middle ground between what we call DIY and broker is a consulting option. And that's just as popular as the broker option because they not only get our time, they get 2 hours of our time at any time that they want. And they get add-on services. So they could literally do almost everything, on the broker side of it, but just choose it from like an a la carte menu. So like if they want us to do non-disclosure agreements or buyer pre-qualification, that type of thing, they can add those services on. So it's sort of like small, medium, large, the small being the DIY, middle ground being what we call consulting, and large being the broker option.
Yeah, so interesting that you have created really kind of a marketplace for salon and spa business to be listed for sale. And then what are the marketing channels that you find are helpful for your listings?
Sorry, you froze. You froze. I'm sorry. What was that?
Yeah, what are the channels that you find to be really the best for marketing? your listings?
Social media and search engines. That's our
Yep.
main focus. That, and we already work with a lot of buyers. Like we've got a whole list of people who are waiting for the right opportunity to come up. So email blasts, that's really simple. But yeah, I would say email, social media, and our friend Google.
What I do like about you, Susan, is you're not just growing your list of prospective sellers, but you're growing your list of prospective buyers. And I think
Yes.
that's so, so important to match the two together, which makes you even more special in this particular niche. So well done on that, always.
Thank you.
When you talk about kind of vetting the buyer, what are things that you're looking for to make sure like this deal is actually going to go down and close?
Well, credit score for one, if they don't have the financing in place, and their ability to run a business, do they have the capacity financially, emotionally, physically to manage and run this business? Do they know anything about the business, first of all? Do they have industry experience? That's pretty important in most situations. Although we do work with a lot of non-industry buyers, I feel like, that's one of the biggest things. It's like, do you understand what it's like to run this business? Do you understand what it's like to run a business? What's required? You've got to put money down, to secure the lease. You've got to put down a couple months rent in addition to, purchasing the business. And so I would say there's several things we like to have conversations with buyers prior to letting them know which salon it is for sale if it's not a public listing. And that really yields a lot of information. If they're just poking around, or maybe if it's somebody that's looking to cause harm, we figured that out really fast.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we research all our buyers, all of them.
What do you think the biggest misconception is for both sides?
That it's easy for a buyer side, that it's kind of easy to run a salon, and that it's a big cash cow and all this. And really it's a lot of work, and that foundation for how you pay your employees is key to a successful sale and obviously profitability. So I think that's one of the biggest things. And I think for sellers, they think it should go faster than it does, even though we provide that education for them on, what a buyer has to go through in order to buy their business. So I say those are the two main things.
Um, you really do sell everywhere.
Yep.
So are there any um kind of special rules depending on which state or region or country that you're in?
Well, each country has different legal requirements in order to sell businesses. And so, for instance, in Canada, we're getting into Canada now, we will have to work with a Canadian brokerage. I'm not a Canadian citizen, so we will have to work with a Canadian brokerage in order to sell salons there. But we've already got a representative who's ready to go. It's just a matter of us finding the right people. And, I was looking into Australia the other day, and all the countries seem to be all the English speaking countries seem to have similar requirements. And so if we fulfill our Australian request, we will be doing the same thing, reaching out to Australian brokers until we can legally operate in those countries.
This is so cool. So for owners who are listening who do have this as probably a goal, they're ready to talk, they're ready to have the conversation. What would be the best way to start the conversation with you?
Gosh, you can reach out to me directly. You can look at our information on our website. It's Sell a Business or Sell Your Business. That's the page. And so we've got a lot of really great things for owners. We've got a lot of content that they can read for free. They can get a free valuation. We've got a tool where they just plug numbers in, and it's going to give them an overview. So it's going to give them a good jumping off point as to where they can focus to increase the sales price of their business, and maybe where they can start cutting back. So I would say that we get a lot of free valuations. And so that is an automated process. And it just kind of, it just gives them an idea, because most of the time they have no idea. And so I would say, yeah, read the content on our site, reach out to me directly. I'm pretty easy to find. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all the good stuff.
For everybody listening, we will have the link in our show notes to Susan's Salon Spa Connection website. So click on that, check it out. We'll also have a link to connect with Susan on LinkedIn and Instagram. She is active on LinkedIn, and we certainly would like more professionals in the industry to be present there as well. That's such a great resource. And like we were kind of talking about behind the scenes, maybe an undertapped resource for our industry. But before we're done, Susan, would you have any, final words of encouragement or wisdom for everybody listening today on the topic of how to sell their salon?
Yeah, I would say for my sellers out there who are thinking about selling, first of all, when you open your business, think about selling from day one and set your salon up for success as far as keeping excellent books, keeping the value of your furniture and fixtures, adding to your digital assets because that is part of the sale, right? It's an excellent add-on. If you don't have the digital assets, you don't get to add that into the sale. And think of, really sell your salon when you're up here, not on the downturn, because you're going to get so much more. Even if you think, well, maybe another 2 years, if you feel like you guys have reached a point of where you're most profitable, that's really the best time to sell your business, not when it's on the downturn, because your buyers are going to look at your financials. They're going to look at the growth and they're going to see your expenditures and they're going to want to see they want to put themselves in your shoes. When it is profitable is the best possible scenario, and give the sale enough time. Don't come in hot, allow at least a year or two to find the right buyer. You shouldn't be in a hurry. That's not typically a great situation. If you're just like, I want to get out now, call us before that.
Yes, call Susan before that.
Yes.
Susan, you are amazing and congrats on really carving out this exceptional niche. It's incredibly helpful. Owners need this and now they have somebody they can trust to be there for them in this process when the time comes. So thank you for joining me today and sharing what you do with the world.
Thank you for having me, Katie. It's always great to see you.
The pleasure is mine. And thank you all for joining us here week after week at Beyond the Technique. If you appreciate this platform, we would love it if you could take a moment to leave us a positive review wherever you're listening so that more people like yourself will discover Beyond the Technique, where we are here to change the way that you are supported in your business. Until next time, everybody, have an awesome day and stay strong.